Now, the idea of a deep dive, obviously, is that it's not set against an individual member of staff like these, but it's actually set against the curriculum area, as you'll know. So we've set up some staff members, not for an individual, but for a deep dive area. Now we've called them deep dive English, deep dive maths, deep dive D&T. What you would have to do, you'd have to, if you wanted to use this kind of model, you'd have to prefix yours with your school name, because obviously you can only have one that's called deep dive English, one that's called deep dive maths. So I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to just click into the deep dive English and we'll have a look to see how this has been set up and some of the tools that have been used. Okay, so the first thing that you might notice is that it kind of looks like the work area of an individual, but actually we've labelled it for the curriculum area. So you set it up in the same way as you would set up a staff member. You also might notice that we've got areas here on the inset menu that are similar to the ones that are for the individual. But for this deep dive area, we've taken some of them away. So we've tinkered around in the settings for this user group, the deep dive user group. So they won't see performance management objectives because then it's not necessary. They won't see standards and they won't see CPD. Now, again, that's our model that we've said we don't think that's necessary for deep dive in Deventio Academy, but you might want to see them. Okay, so the idea around this is that you can turn things on or off depending on what work areas that you're setting up. So the first thing I want to show you is the collaborators. So you may or you may not have had a play and started to use collaborators for your individual staff members, but we thought this was essential to add collaborators for a deep dive area. So remember, it's the deputy head in our model who is the line manager of all deep dives. That's Jessica Upton. Okay, but we've made the collaborators every other member of the SLT, as you can see from their job titles. Now, you might want to make your collaborators, if you're in a really large school, all of the members of that particular curriculum area, for example, and you want to make them collaborators. And the purpose of the collaborator is that you can give them an insight into this area, but we can set those by going to what next, add collaborator. Let's say Harry is another SLT member we need to add in, and we can set what they see by giving them the correct rights here. So we've already said that we haven't got any performance management objectives, so I'd leave that blank, but I would like them to see the blog but not manage it. I would like them to view and add evidence. I would like them to just view the monitoring, and we haven't got any standards. We've got areas for development. I want them to view and I want them to be able to add those, and so on and so forth. You would give them the rights for those collaborators and then save that to add them in. And that's the way we get them. So when Barbara logs in and Michelle log in and Mark log in, they're going to get the My Staff and they're going to see English Deep Dive as a member of their staff. Does that make sense? I'll take silence as consent. Are there any questions about any of that? Okay, so adding collaborators we feel as though would be a benefit here in a deep dive area. And then obviously the monitoring. So the monitoring obviously is against the curriculum area rather than the individual. And we've developed deep dive monitoring forms. So we've got one for learning walk, one for lesson observation. We've got an Ofsted style one. We've got work scrutiny. Okay. And you can see the examples of all of the deep dive forms we have if you're an administrator, and you can see settings. And they're in performance management and monitoring. So if you're logged into one of these courses sites, you can see them all here. You can see them all in monitoring forms. And you can start reviewing those if you wanted to. So if you come away from this session, you think, yeah, that is something I want to start doing myself, you can start with perhaps reviewing the monitoring forms, and you might want to use them as is, or you might want to use them as a base, and then start creating your own, and get in touch with us and we can create those for you. Okay, so that's where they